have 6 o'clock, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the December 11th meeting of the New Bern Board of Aldermen. Tonight the prayer will be given by Alderman Barbara Best.
Can we take a moment for prayer, please? Heavenly Father, I come before you this evening as humble as I know how. Heavenly Father, just thanking you for life itself. Heavenly Father, I ask of you tonight if you could touch the mind and heart of each one of us aldermen as we come forth and handle the business of this city. Heavenly Father, let us all work on one accord while we conduct the business of this city. Let us be mindful that we are doing your work for all of your people of this great city. Amen.
Amen. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Bingle. Here. Alderwoman Harris.
Present.
Alderman Astor.
Here.
Mayor Outlaw.
Here.
Alderman Kinsey.
Here.
Alderman Best. Present. Alderman Odom.
Here.
Okay, the first item of business would be the request and petition of citizens. Do we have anything tonight?
No, sir.
Okay, at this time, we'll go to item 4 through 6, the consent agenda.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as is.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed the same. Next item would be item number 7, Mr. Stevens.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. As we do each and every year, the New Bern Police Department and Craven County Schools partner together to hold an annual essay contest. This was the 7th year that we have done so. One of the contest winners is in attendance tonight to read their essay, and all the winners in attendance will be acknowledged and extended a handshake of appreciation from the governing board if the board so chooses. But at this time, I want to turn it over to the chief and his staff to make these recognitions.
Good evening, Mayor and Board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How's everyone this evening? It's a great honor and pleasure to recognize tonight the winners of our essay writing contest. I'm a little winded, I just ran up the steps. This is our 7th year where we go to the elementary schools and ask 4th and 5th grade to write an essay on what it means to be a responsible citizen. And what is remarkable about this year is the fact that we had Hurricane Florence, and the schools and the kids were still eager to participate. So I'm really excited about what happened. We had a great number of students participate in this year's event. The essays were turned over to citizens and officers in the police department, and then a winner was selected. The police department has already gone around to each school and recognized the winner, and what we're here to do tonight is to bring them forth so you can recognize them. We have selected one student to read their essay, and that is the student from B.D. Quinn. And I'm hoping he's prepared tonight to do so. Jason Hawkins. Gerard, I need my glasses. Just state your name and then just read your essay. State your name.
My name is Gerard Hawkins. What it means to be a respectful community member is first to be respectful to the people and surroundings around you, and always respect your family. Second, you must have a nice positive attitude for the people around you. Third, if you see anybody/people, you should help them. Don't stand there, do something. Another thing, if you see trash, don't be afraid to pick it up. We all bleed the same blood. Make sure when you're speaking to the people in your environment, make sure you have a nice positive attitude. If you see somebody in need of help, you should help them instead of just sitting and watching. If somebody is new in your class, instead of being rude or mean, you should greet them and welcome them to your classroom because they are new and you've been there longer than they have. If you go to school and you see someone getting bullied, you should step in and help them, not sit back and watch them get bullied. You should also help the police by reporting someone suspicious.
We'll come down and we'll recognize the rest of them. I don't know if we have any principals here tonight. Do we have any principals here tonight? Okay. Could you stand and say your name, ma'am? Okay, and you can come forth also, if you wouldn't mind. And here, come this way. And when you're student. Okay, now I got my glasses on. I can read it correctly. From B.D. Quinn, Gerard Hawkins. From Calvary Baptist School, we have Layla Cox. And forgive me if I mispronounce this, but from Creekside Elementary School, Caitlin Nye. Wynn. Caitlin Wynn. From Epiphany School, we have Caroline Strickland. And from Oaks Road Elementary School, we have the principal here. And the student is Frankie Martinez Gabriel. St. Paul's Catholic School, Joshua Gilliam. And finally, from Trent Park Elementary, we have the principal here, and we have Sandy Hayes. Sydney Hayes. And Mayor, if you don't mind, can I have all the kids come up and take a group picture? Okay. Can we have all the students come up and we'll take a group picture with the board? And do you want the principals to join? And principals, would you join them if you wouldn't mind? If you want someone to take a picture for you, they can do that.
Okay, let's go to item number 8. Mr. Stevens.
Item number 8, Mayor, is the appointment of the Mayor Pro Tem for 2019 and the administration of the oath.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to appoint Jeffrey Odom.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed the same. Motion carries. Congratulations, Alderman Odom. Would you like to take the oath of office?
Sure. Down there, I guess?
Yes.
Raise your right. Okay. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, so help you God? Do you solemnly swear that you will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Mayor Pro Tem, so help you God? Do you solemnly and sincerely swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability, so help you God?
Congratulations.
Mayor Outlaw?
Yes.
I just would like to thank you and the board for the tremendous support I received this year as the Mayor Pro Tem, and it was a wonderful experience. I was honored and privileged to serve in that capacity, and again, thank you, Mayor Outlaw, and to the rest of the board members for allowing me to serve in
Well,
that capacity.
thank you, and it's been a tough couple, 3 months, and I really, really appreciate all you've done as Mayor Pro Tem, and, you know, I don't know if the public knows that for the first couple of days, you and I and Bob pretty much were having a lot of the same issues, and we had a many hour in a truck together riding around, didn't we, Bob?
We did.
So it's been a real honor and pleasure to work with you this year, and thanks for all you've done. Mr. Stevens, let's go to item number 8 now. Item number 9.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Item number 9 is a public hearing and consideration of the board to adopt a statement of zoning consistency and to consider adopting an ordinance to rezone three tracts of land identified as tax parcels 7-105-17001, 7-105-15000, and 7-105-15001 from A5 Agricultural District to R8 Residential. Thomas Engineering, the agent for Nolan Commercial Contractors, LLC, has requested to have the 3 tracts identified as the tax parcels that I previously mentioned be rezoned from A5 Agricultural District to R8 Residential. These properties are located along and west of Old Airport Road and to the south of Betty Gresham Road, and jointly consist of approximately 72.23 acres. The Planning and Zoning Board voted unanimously 7-0 on November the 13th to approve the request. The state statutes and local ordinances require the governing board to hold a public hearing to receive any kind of comments from the public regarding rezoning requests. And this meeting was called for last board meeting and has been duly advertised according to what is required by our state statutes. After conducting the hearing, if the board so chooses, it is requested to adopt a statement of zoning consistency and then to consider approving the ordinance to rezone the property as you see fit. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Potts. She's going to give you some detail regarding this rezoning request.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Aldermen. As previously stated, this is a rezoning request by Thomas Engineering, who is the agent for Nolan Commercial Contractors, LLC. This is to rezone approximately 72.23 acres from A5 agricultural to RA residential. As previously stated, the parcels are located to the west of Old Airport Road and to the south of Betty Gresham Road. The Planning and Zoning Board, at their last meeting in November, voted unanimously to recommend approval of this rezoning, and staff finds the requested zoning consistent with the CAMA Regional Land Use Plan and nearby land uses, and staff recommends the approval of the request. And the applicant is here this evening should you have any questions.
Okay, this time, any other staff comments or presentations? I'm going to open a public hearing. Anybody that would like to come forward, ask any questions, make any statements, comments about this item, you're more than welcome to come up, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. I didn't know if all these people were here for me or not. My name is John Thomas. I'm with Thomas Engineering. My office is at 1316B, Commerce Drive, New Bern. We represent the owner of this property. We're the engineers on the property that submitted this request. I don't know how familiar y'all are with where this is. It's between the first phase one of Hardy Farms that we call Hardy Farms. It stretches out to Old Airport Road. It's the last, what I call big chunk of the Hardy's farm to be developed. There's a couple little small pieces here and there that need to be developed. This was annexed into the city some years ago with some other parcels as per the agreement that the city had with John Hardy. Customarily during that period of time when the parcels came in, they came in as an agricultural zone, A5. As it's determined what wanted to be done with the property, we would rezone that property, and in this case to R8. Most everything in that area, with some small exception, is R8. Taberna is R8, Bryce's Crossing, Longleaf Pines, Hardy Farms, most of Carolina Colors, that whole area is zoned R8. At the time that we were doing Bryce's Crossing, which was in 2003, actually, there was a lot of concern from the Taberna folks, which the Taberna project was well on the way to being built out, about traffic on Old Airport Road. Carolina Colors was kicking in during that period of time, and so because of that concern, the city actually hired Kimley Horn to do a traffic study of that Pacific area where West Thurman Road is, all the way up to our Old Airport Road and out to US 70. That particular report, which I have here, was done in 2006. They did it according to the way traffic studies were supposed to be done, with traffic counts and all that. They used computer models to run all the scenarios. They input data that we supplied to them regarding Bryce's, Longleaf, what the build out would be on the Hardy Farm, including Carolina Colors. In 2006, things were still kicking pretty good in the economy, and believe it or not, in their report, they had a build out of that area in 2009, including Carolina Colors. So you see where we are today. We didn't even get into the next phase of the Hardy Farm, called Hardy Farms Phase 1, until 2012. During that period of time, as we were going through the approval processes and at the staff and planning board level, the traffic thing came up again. One of the issues was that Hardy Farms Phase 1 did not have a direct connection with Old Airport Road.
Correct.
The traffic had to go through Bryce's Crossing. There was a lot of effort put into making sure that the roads were capable of handling the additional traffic. But one of the requirements that were put on us to do during that period of time, and we presented to the planning board, and I almost believe to this board here, not this sitting board, was a master plan of the very tract that we're looking at right now, which basically provided for Betty Gresham to be constructed out to an old airport road and that site development. I have those with me, but if you want to look at them, we can. But there was a conceptual plan done with an R8 concept at that time. We were hoping to do this quicker than now, but the economy for the last 7 or 8 years, as you know, with the recession that was supposed to last 2 years, it lasted 7 and 8 years, delayed being able to move forward with this next phase of Hardy Farms. Also, it was complicated with trying to get the owner of that property to sell that property to somebody. And there have been several folks look at that. My client ended up making a deal with Mr. Hardy, and we bought that property 2 or 3 months ago, I believe. So that's kind of where we're at today, requesting this rezoning so we can move forward. We're hoping to get through these approvals and start construction of the first phase of the project sometime in late January or early February, depending on what the weather does to us. The traffic analysis that was done provided for improvements to be done at the intersection of where Betty Gresham ties in to Old Airport Road, where West Thurman Road comes into it. There's been some development around in that area, and none of those improvements have been done. Since that time, the city has retained, I believe, Kimberly Horn to develop plans to improve Old Airport Road, I believe from Tempore all the way to Evans Mill. Those recommendations, pretty much that's in the TIA that was done back in 2003, have been incorporated in that. And I'm not sure I know what the schedule of that is, but we have corresponded with the Public Works Department, so the entrance that we put in coming into this particular development will mirror up with that and match it whenever it's done. But chances are we'll probably, if that work starts in the spring, we'll probably all get there about the same time. So that part of it, should work out. I would be glad to answer any questions you have about it. It's no secret what we're doing. We've already got that out in the public on what we're doing as far as a lot layout. I know that has nothing to do with the rezoning, but it's out there in the public. I would answer any questions you may have, and also I'd like an opportunity to respond to any comments that the public may make, if I could be recognized to do that at that particular time. But thank you all so much.
Mr. Thomas, just so I'm understanding correctly, because I'm looking at the picture that's up on the screen, in your plans, will there be access from Betty Gresham Lane off of Old Airport Road? Are you going to incorporate that in your plan, or you're saying you're collaborating with someone else to make that possible?
Answer is yes, and I can show you the plan. But Mr. Davis is going to tell you when you rezone it, we can do anything in there that particular zone says that we can do. But I will tell you that what we've got on the plan is what we're going through the approval process of now. I'll be glad to share that with you if you want to see it.
But that's my main concern, I'm a real estate broker, so I know a lot of families that lived over there and sold houses, and their main issue was being able to have that access from Old Airport to get to Betty Gresham. So I just wanted to know if you were incorporating that in what you were doing, that access from Old Airport Road.
The Betty Gresham will extend from existing Betty Gresham and the Hardy Farms Phase 1 all the way out to Old Airport Road.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, that's great.
And that's well, I won't say we had that agreement to do that, but that was what we proposed to do when we came in with Hardy Farm Phase 1. And we were hoping it would be done a lot quicker, but it didn't get done. But it will get done now.
What are the proposed number of homes in here?
Yes.
the number of homes that you'll be building in this phase?
I think there's 116. And I will say, that pretty much matches the study that was in the TIA. I think the TIA, they did an acreage thing basically too. Basically using 5 units per acre. But for the Hardy Farms, not including Bryce's Crossing, the TIA had 447 lots in there, okay, that they used in their model to do whatever they do. If you take what's in Bryce's, Hardy Farm 1, and what we're proposing, that's 437, which is less than the 447. However, John Hardy still got 2 or 3 or 4 lots down on the creek that could probably be put in at some point in time. So it's going to probably hit the TIA number right on here of what we proposed in there.
That's awesome.
Okay, this time, anybody else from the public would like to come forward and ask any questions, make any comments or statements concerning this item?
Mayor, I make a motion we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second to close the public hearing. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
As you know, I'm the alderman for that ward over there, and I have.
Yeah, let's just close the public hearing and we'll.
Okay.
Are you good with that? Yeah. Okay, then we'll go right into that. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the same. Alderman.
Yes, thank you.
Do you have a question or something?
I just got a statement. I'm gonna vote for this mainly because we need the growth and we need the homes, but I have some major concerns, and so does the people in Taberna and Evans Mill, as well as Bryce's Crossing. One of the concerns is, I'm not sure about your traffic study or what it says, but the traffic study that I performed at 7 o'clock, 7:30 the other morning, there was at least 10 to 12, and at one point 14 cars stacked up at the intersection of Airport Road and Taberna Circle. The other thing is that with this growth, which we need to make sure that our infrastructure can handle it, which means we might need to look at thinking about additional police officers, additional firemen, and additional improvements to roads in that area. We definitely have to do something with the intersection at Taberna Circle and Airport Road. I think 3 times now the gentleman that lives at the end of that road's had his house crashed into by a car that ran the intersection. I've asked the electric department today to look at putting some street lights at that intersection to help maybe with some of the traffic problems down there, to light up that intersection a little bit. The Public Works Department has been out and they've added the reflective stops bars and they've put some reflective stop signs up and stuff, but it's still a continuous problem of it. The traffic in there is just terrible. The intersection at Betty Grisham Road and Old Airport Road, I would like for the city manager to look at whatever way that we can do that intersection to encourage people to go straight down Thurman Road to gain access to Highway 70. Now, I know Thurman Road has got some problems in itself because it's not lined up, and you almost have to have a head-on collision to make a left turn. So today I've had a meeting with Denny Booker, the county commissioner out there, and we're going to approach the state Department of Transportation to see if we can do something to fix that intersection. We know that there's going to be a major construction taking place out there, but they need something out there on a temporary basis, whether it's some changing the configurations of the traffic lights to allow left turns or whatever it might take. But we need that. You know, we possibly need to think about putting street lights at that intersection as well at Betty Grisham and Airport Road to light that intersection up. And then my other concern, and it's a big concern of the residents of Bryce's Crossing, is drainage issues. right now, it seems that when you have a heavy rain, that the streets, especially Judge Manley Drive over in that area, flood. And you know, that's their big concern. I'm telling you, there's a tremendous amount of people that's called me and asked me to vote against this tonight. However, I'm hoping that the city manager will follow up on these remarks and comments that I've had from the residents and work with you and whoever else we have to work with to make some changes out there to help with the traffic problems and with the infrastructure.
I hear you.
Thank you.
Mr. Attorney, I have a question. As part of the motion to adopt this resolution, can we put any restrictions? Can we do any of these things that Alderman Astor has asked about to kind of put it in there to get things done?
Yeah, no, ma'am. Unfortunately, no.
I think the other question I would have too, the development of Betty Grisham Lane or Road or whatever it is, that will go first, correct? Will that be open for the construction to take place?
This is a phased development, and the Betty Gresham corridor will be done first.
Before any construction takes place, so the construction trucks can use that road to gain access?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, there's two roads that come in to Betty Gresham, one from Bryce's Crossing, one from Hardy Farms. We're going to restrict those roads from being used for construction traffic during the building of the infrastructure for the subdivision. Also, when the houses are started in there, we'll put a sign up and try to direct most of the traffic off of coming in off of Old Airport Road on the Betty Gresham to get to the houses when they're building those. But there still will be one of those guys that may drive through the subdivision every now and then, and the residents there give me a call. My name and phone number will probably be on the sign out there if that starts to happen. I can't control every sub that comes in there, but that's the intent.
Yeah, I think it's the bigger concrete trucks and stuff like that that the residents are concerned about more than anything else. I mean, a pickup truck going through in there probably is not a big issue, but those big trucks going through there definitely creates problems.
And this, if things go well, the developer is also the builder in there, so we're dealing with one builder on the houses. So it's a lot easier to do that instead of 10 builders coming in there and building houses. So we're involved in what they do out there, so we'll monitor it the best that we can to soften the impact.
Thank you.
Mr. Thompson.
I have a question. On the infrastructure, could you share with us pretty much on the type of piping that you're going to put in for the drainage? Could you sort of give us any type of idea based on what you're looking at? Because normally when a contractor go in, you know, they try to put in the cheapest and the smallest pipe they can get in. And normally that causes a lot of problems at the end after the construction has been completed. So I was just trying to get a little understanding here to find out tonight if you can share that with us, that we don't run into that situation again.
City spec.
Yeah,
It means city spec, but usually we like to put concrete pipe underneath the roads. After you get off the roads, if there's any piping, you can use concrete. They have some plastic materials that you can use. Some of the earlier plastic that we were using years ago were not very good. We quit using those. There's better products out there now to use. But basically everything is city spec. Your city folks get to look at the plans and approve or disapprove. The contractor does not make that decision. We make that decision in our office when we put the specifications out to build the project.
To Alderman Kinsey's question, the process right now for whoever the mayor is once these, Mr. Davis, correct me if I'm wrong, in today's policy, once the zoning board, right now we're just doing zoning, we're not doing a development approval tonight, but when,
that's right.
and if the development review and all that goes through, and then it goes to zoning, and zoning approves, it's the mayor is in violation of his office not to sign off on those plans, which have been signed.
That's right.
As a courtesy to Alderman Kinsey, or in this case, a lot of it is Alderman Astor. I've already talked to Alderman Astor about before I sign any more, I want the alderman to sit down with me and the engineer, whoever that might be, on any particular development and go through so that you can get a little more familiar with what you're fixing to get stuck with in many instances, because we're not fixing 150-year-old infrastructure, and we're fixing 18 and 20-year-old infrastructure that evidently, just like, not necessarily anything here, but that are not proportioned appropriately for other things other than that development. And so what I call the cascading phenomena of adjoining developments, and in the case of the concerns of North Hills, we've gone and looked at that. But what I'm just basically saying is, if a street light's out, we fix it. If a water main is out, we go fix it. But, when a ditch has been approved, and the saplings grow up into trees, and there's a utility easement, never, well, I wouldn't say never, but the majority of the time, we do not go back down there, with the exception of Greenbrier. The Greenbrier Canal, we do maintain an area clear to where we can go in there and mow that ditch to where we can properly maintain them. So that's kind of what you're getting to, along with the fact, as Alderman Odom and I witnessed yesterday, continual undersizing of culverts around this city that fit at the time they're installed, but do not plan for 30 and 40 and 50 years down the road. So, Alderman Odom, did we not go and see one that was probably installed within the last 30 years that was at peak demand? It was at peak yesterday?
Yes, sir.
And how much, again, I beg the question, how much more would it cost to put a tandem pipe right beside it? So, again, I know where you're going with your questions, so why don't you finish up with your concerns?
Well, I've seen a lot of that happen. What you just said, we're going to do to the specs of what we think it is. You're going to have 2 or 3 communities shooting the same water through the same pipe. Coming down, you have community here, and the water's coming like this here.
That's not his problem, though. He's only engineer for that development. It's this forged lack of, I wouldn't say confidence, I wouldn't say ineptness, but it's a lack of concern of the future drainage and impervious surfaces that are going to be put on the city, that we are undersizing pipes all over the city, and as a result, people are getting water in their homes that they shouldn't get.
Well,
that's not his problem.
But that's something that I'm trying to learn more about to make sure that that's not going to happen continuously again. So I'm trying to make sure that this is something that we're learning, that we're going to work on with the developer to make sure that the right pipes are put in place.
It's not his problem.
I understand, but I'm just...
Mr. Stevens, do you know if we have corrected the problem in Bryce's Crossing as far as the flooding is concerned and the water and the drainage is concerned? Especially like the flooding in the street. And is all that water going to go in the same place that this water will be going?
I'm not familiar with Mr. Thomas's design, and I'd have to check with Matt, but I think it's probably a different design, as it would go down Betty Gresham and then ultimately discharge throughout.
Yeah, it's not going to go through neither the Hardy Farm or the...
But it goes out on the ditch that goes alongside of the airport road, correct, or not?
No, it goes to Fort Bryce's Creek.
Okay.
This goes to the back.
I'm not familiar with the flooding that you're talking about. I'd be glad to look at it, but I've not heard anything about it.
I think Matt could tell you, at some other day. It's not the issue tonight, but at some other day.
My name's on this stuff, so if there's an issue somewhere, I want to know about it.
Sure. I think maybe Matt, you get with Matt sometime tomorrow, and he will tell you some of the problems that we've had over there. A good rain and the water goes above the curbing in the streets.
I know that years ago there was a pipe that we were using that we don't use anymore.
Okay.
I don't think we use any of that out there that it may be, and we've had some difficulty with the material. It had nothing to do with the selection of the material or the installation of it. It's
Sure.
Trent Woods just replaced a big long one,
Yeah.
the same type of pipe.
Well, we definitely need the housing. We definitely need the houses. So,
Well, what I'm trying, a little bit of my concern is two things. Number one, the stormwater fee that we're supposed to be keeping our ditches clean, some of that money we're spending to correct things that were engineered and approved by this city in the last 20 years. And that's money could have been spent physically getting out there and keeping these ditches maintained. And that's a real frustrating thing. The other thing is that when Alderman Odom went to D.C. and then I went up there with the city manager, all we heard was, what from a resiliency plan would you like for us to do up here in Washington to help you with what's going on down in New Bern? And I said, well, we have 800-year floods and we have 25-year pipes. And you know, everybody in the room kind of just, you know, kind of thought about it. And so on one hand, I'm not talking about John Thomas, I'm talking about engineers. If I was an engineer, I'd be speccing that thing right out with whatever my professional credentials were with the North Carolina Society of Engineers, et cetera, and with clean water out of Washington. I wouldn't be worried about a triple-sized culvert, a tandem. I would be speccing out what keeps my license on the wall. And that's what any good engineer is going to do. Where the stewardship is failing is elected officials are not willing to take a public stand that, you know, the rules have got to change along with community rating systems and everything else, that we cannot in the future operate the city and have our citizens flood when there's things we can do, like, well, I just don't want to get off on my soapbox.
Well, I was gonna say, Mayor, is this possibly something that we can talk more about at the retreat? Because I know you brought it up last time, and being the fact that we had a really bad hurricane and there was a lot of flooding and stuff, and we do still have people coming in and wanting to build in our city. I mean, it could be something where we can discuss and see legally, policy-wise, what we're able to do to stand up for what you're saying in regards to making sure that, you know, these specs are feasible, because there are a lot of people that are still suffering because they have 25-year-old or whatever you said pipes, and you know, we've kind of grown, and we have a lot, like Mr. Asher said, we have a lot of people, and even what Kinsey was saying is so many people using this one area. It needs to be bigger, and maybe it's something of conversation we can have at the retreat to kind of.
Mayor, I think it would, you know, you might also want to do an ad hoc group of some aldermen. You know, to be honest, you know, I don't necessarily am trained or understand this situation like you do. Culverts and all that stuff may be foreign to me, but as aldermen and board members, elected officials, we need to educate ourselves on policies that are going to take our city into the future. And that's an important thing about what we're doing. So not only the retreat, I mean, this should be an ongoing, probably ad hoc committee to be looking at different issues so that we can create policy that will prevent that for the future. That's the only way we're going to get this done.
I think any other municipality.
I think the city engineer ought to review each one of them, and his recommendations on pipe size is what we use, not a standard. I think his recommendation on pipe size.
But that doesn't, like, right now there's new impervious surface being formed in the Trent Roads area at Morton Road. I don't know, and I don't know unless somebody wants to spend a lot of time on it, the hydrology effects of more impervious surface in a 100-year flood event. That water is going to go out of that retention pond. It's going to hit Trent Road, and now we've got, I guess, there are 30-inch pipes under there, and already Morton Road is stressed with what it's getting. So again, we're not giving the direction to the city that we want on stressed areas, the proper sizing for friction during a 100, 200-year storm. 4 or 5 big limbs get up there and clog one of them, and you got the other one there to, you know. So the direction is to stay within the safe harbor of engineering. And if I was an engineer, that's where I would stay. But I'm not. I'm an elected official, and I've got citizens that their properties keep flooding that are actually not in flood areas.
Right.
So anyway. Alderman Bingham, to your statement, this yesterday or Monday, we were going to meet with USDA and look over some of this because there is a USDA program, and we will be doing that pretty soon. And Jordan Hughes and Mark Stevens and I and Bobby, you were going to be going. Whether you knew it or not, the guy got snowed out. He was in Asheville. So we will actually be doing that, and I would have liked to have been able to report some of that to you
Was
tonight.
that what you were saying about them doing the ditches and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna get some help there, and then, Mr. Stevens, you just finished this discussion up between USDA, and there are some FEMA, I think they will clean out silt and things, but they won't. Can you comment on that?
Sure. The USDA has a program to where they have been allocated some funds to assist with ditch work that typically is not covered under FEMA repair type work, where they'll come in and look at ditches that have filled in over years and years to potentially allocate some funds so that those can be cleaned out. I'm still learning a little bit about the program itself, Mayor. I know you spoke with the gentleman, but as soon as we hear back from him, we will reschedule that appointment for him to come down and visit with us.
Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make the motion, please. I'd like to make a motion to adopt an ordinance to rezone 3 tracts of land.
What?
Identified, no?
We need to do the consistency first as a matter of order,
okay.
And then you adopt the
I'm sorry,
rezone.
I missed that. So I make a motion that we adopt a resolution, we adopt a statement of zoning consistency.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Bingham, seconded by Alderman Harris. Is there discussion? Seeing none, let's go with a roll call starting with Alderman Odom.
Alderman Odom.
Yes.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey.
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw.
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris.
Yes.
Alderman Bingle.
Yes. I'd now like to make a motion adopting an ordinance to rezone 3 tracts of land identified as tax parcels 7-105-17001, 7-105-15000, and 7-105-15001 from A5 Agricultural District to R8 Residential.
I second that.
Motion by Alderman Bingle, seconded by Alderman Harris. Is there discussion? Seeing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Bingle.
Alderman Bingle.
Yes?
Alderwoman Harris.
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey.
Yes.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Alderman Odom.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Anything further on that before we go? Yes, ma'am.
My only thing is, moving forward, can we have them separated? I know we asked before, because each time we always do the wrong thing.
Mhm.
And if it could be separated, I think it'd be much easier.
And A
for us.
and B maybe.
Did you catch that, Mr. Attorney? That we'd like to have them separated. Yeah,
Just
it is
for reading
confusing.
purposes. Because we always go to the last part, and then you guys have to tell us to do it again.
Okay. Let's go to item number 11, Mr. Stevens.
10.
Item number 10 is being pulled.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
Did we have to make a motion on that?
On what, number 10?
Yeah.
It wouldn't hurt to make a
Okay,
motion.
would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I guess.
It's in my room, right?
Yeah, go ahead. Mayor.
Okay, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to pull item number 10 off of the agenda for further review.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Mr. Stevens?
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 11 is consideration of the board to adopt a resolution approving the sale of 570 NC Highway 55 West. An offer of $6,750 was received from Edwin B. Franklin Sr. for the purchase of the property. The offer was advertised as required by law. No additional bids were received. The parcel is a vacant lot with a tax value of $13,500, and Mr. Franklin's offer represents 50% of that value. The property was acquired jointly by the city and Craven County through tax foreclosure in May of 2017. The total taxes due to both taxing authorities was $4,860.56. In December of 2017, the county transferred its interest to the city, and the city subsequently demolished the structure that was on the property due to the deteriorated state and asbestos contamination that was contained therein. As the sole property owner, the cost of $7,354 of the demolition was paid for by the city. If the sale of the property is approved, the city will receive full proceeds less the cost of the advertising of the offer, which would be $6,750. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Board have questions?
I have no questions, just a comment. You know, going forward again, we should at least get our demolition money back. If nothing else, get our demolition money back. I know we have, I guess this was policy, but you know, maybe moving forward in the new year, we can talk about.
Again?
I see you shaking your head.
I'm just saying there's instances where it's not going to happen. There's lots in Duffy Field that are worth $4,000 on tax value, and it costs $6,000 or $7,000 to tear the house down and remediate the contamination or whatever it may be, whether that's asbestos or lead base. So in the real world market, someone is not going to come pay $7,000 for a lot that's worth $4,000. I'm just saying, in certain instances, maybe in this case, that might have been a situation where $7,354 would have been an adequate demolition cost as far as an offer. But in a lot of instances, in the properties that we own and that we sell, that is not the case where we had demolitions.
I'm just glad we got 50% of the value.
Well, let's hope the county wants to continue to transfer the interest of the property, because we do all the work, I'm assuming. To the demolition aspect, do we do that?
Generally speaking, properties, and I hate to say this, but generally speaking, properties within the county, take James City, for instance, you'll drive through, you got a brand new hardware store, and then right adjacent to you, you got a dilapidated old house with a barn that's fallen down and everything else. They normally don't get into situations of tearing down properties because of the building or their planning and zoning standards and so forth, and deteriorated state type situations, dilapidated homes. We, on the other hand, in my opinion, the board, the city values the aesthetic appearance of our city. Therefore, that's some of the reasons why they transfer their interest, because they don't want to bear the burden of the cost of tearing that down, and we, as a city, do.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that the board consider selling the property located at 570 NC Highway 55 West at the offer of $6,750.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Best, seconded by Alderman Odom. Is there discussion? Seeing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Odom.
Alderman Odom?
Yes.
Alderman Best?
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey?
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw?
Yes.
Alderman Astor?
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris?
Yes.
Alderman Bingle?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 12.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 12 is consideration by the board to adopt a resolution approving a supplemental agreement with the NC Department of Transportation regarding improvements of Trent Road. As you recall, the city and NC DOT entered into an agreement whereby certain state-owned roads can be turned over to the city. That was in 1995. One of those roads included within our city corporate limits is Trent Road. As part of the agreement that was established when we took over certain streets in lieu of us owning the Alfred Cunningham Bridge, part of that, or the majority, if not all of the portion of, actually it is all of the portion of Trent Road that NCDOT owned, they transferred over to us. We had already owned a significant portion of it from basically Pollock, where Pollock Street ends at First Street all the way to Simmons Street. And ultimately we owned the rest of it. During their construction processes over the years, they had completed various resurfacing projects along Trent Road. However, they had left a section of it out in order to complete the storm drainage repairs at Rev. Robin Lane. When those were done, resurfacing was completed for a certain portion of it, but then there was a gap section that was left, and as part of the agreement we had, whenever we took over the roads and they took over the ownership of the bridge, at that point they said that they would complete the resurfacing that was left over. That has yet to be done. However, in discussions with DOT, we thought it best that they just go ahead and give us the money for the cost of what that resurfacing was. That way we could apply that towards the redesign and reconstruction of Trent Road whenever that happens. At this point, the agreement that DOT has provided us will pay the city a lump sum of $44,714 in lieu of resurfacing approximately 1,000 linear feet of Trent Road that was left out from the resurfacing prior. Happy to answer any questions.
Board have questions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution approving a supplement agreement with North Carolina Department of Transportation regarding improvements on Trent Road.
I'll second.
Motion by Alderman Harris, seconded by Alderman Astor. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Bingle.
Alderman Bingle,
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris,
Yes.
Alderman Astor,
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw,
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Odom.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 13.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 13 is consideration by the board to adopt a resolution approving an audit contract amendment for fiscal year ending June 30, 2018. As you recall, on May 8, 2018, the board approved a contract with Malden and Jenkins LLC to perform the city's audit for fiscal year ending June 30, 2018. Terms of the contract provided that the audit report would be completed and due on the 31st of October 2018. Obviously, we've had significant impacts here from Hurricane Florence, as well as an increase in staff time necessary for us to compile all the data and process payrolls and everything else. So it's been kind of difficult for us to do so. Additionally, staff's in the middle of the ERP conversion, which is our enterprise resource program, where it's our financial systems and so forth and so on. We have not lost any records, and the hurricane and the ERP conversion are ongoing, but it is asked at this point that the board consider approving an amendment to the contract to extend the audit to a due date of the 31st of December 2018. Mr. Sabatelli has included a memo in his packet, and he is going to answer any questions you may have about it.
As long as it meets LGC. What's the board's pleasure on this item?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving an audit contract amendment for FY ending June 30th, 2018.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Odom, seconded by Alderman Kinsey. Is there discussion?
Yes, Mayor. I'd like
Yes,
to ask
ma'am.
a question. What was LGC? Local
Local Government Commission.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, have roll call starting with Alderman Odom.
Alderman Odom,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw,
Yes.
Alderman Astor,
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris,
Yes.
Alderman Bingle.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 14.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the board. Item number 14 is a consideration of the board to adopt a budget ordinance amendment for FY 18-19's operating budget. The police department is here tonight to present to you the reasons for the need, that staff need for this particular amendment. This amendment will basically appropriate $266,460 to the police department for upgrades to the New World computer-aided dispatch software. The emergency telephone system fund has already appropriated over $60,000 towards this cost, and the additional $266,460 will be paid by an increase in debt proceeds. Additionally, the budget amendment appropriates $66,000 to E911 for the upgrade to the 911 call recording system. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Captain Jones, and Captain Jones is going to give you a brief summary of one of the reasons why, or several of the reasons why we need this upgrade.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. So as I go through the presentation, I thought it important to start with just quickly, as I say CAD and RMS, I wanted you to be clear on what exactly I'm talking about. So there's two components to our public safety software. There's CAD, which is our computer-aided dispatch, which is basically the first step in the 911 call taking and the dispatch of our fire, police, and EMS units. And then at the same time, we have our records management system, which is like the second step. So the information from the CAD, as we go to write reports, goes into the records management system, and it's how we pull statistical data, things like that, and how we do our state and federal reporting on both the police and the fire side of things. So the request tonight has two components to it. The first request is we're asking for the upgrade of our computer-aided dispatch to the newest enterprise platform of our current vendor, New World Systems, which includes several enhanced features. And this is something, this part of the request, we're under some time constraints. It needs to be completed by January of 2020, which I'll explain that in a minute. The second component of the request is to add the fire records to our current records management system, which again is through New World. So, of course, the first question is why do we need to upgrade our CAD? Right now, the current CAD system will only operate on the Windows 7 platform, and as you know, Windows 10 is the current Windows platform. And there's also our SQL Server and some of our Windows Server operating system is also on older platforms that are soon to be out of support, starting in January of 2020 for the Windows products, and then as early as July of 2019 for the SQL Server. So if we don't upgrade prior to January of 2020, we're going to lose that extended support on those products, and basically the CAD won't stop working, but we're basically in a position where we won't have any support if something happens to the system, and we could very well get compromised on that. So although we're compelled to upgrade at this point, there are some benefits to the CAD, not just upgrading to that Windows 10 platform, but there's also some pretty good benefits that we see. And I just wanted to highlight a few of those. First and foremost, one of the most important things that will allow us to do finally is have what we call CAD to CAD interoperability with both Craven County and Havelock. So right now, all three jurisdictions are on the same New World system, but they don't currently talk to each other. With this CAD upgrade, we will have the ability for, if we take an incoming 911 call that belongs to Craven, so to speak, we can enter that right into our system and shoot it right over to Craven seamlessly without having to transfer the call, without a delay and trying to get that call to the right place. There are a lot of improved GIS and mapping capabilities with the new platform. And one of the things that I think is really important is it gives us the ability to dispatch units based on the location of the unit. So it will work with the GPS in the cars to not have to worry about who is assigned to that particular area of the city. It's going to pick the closest unit and dispatch them to, regardless of whether they're assigned to that area or not. So it gives us more efficiency in our dispatching. And it simplifies a lot of the processes, and it also it's highly configurable to our needs. There's a lot of things that you can configure just to the way we do things that with the current system you can't. So I guess the other important question is why now? Why is it, why wasn't this in the budget process, so to speak? And the answer to that is it was. We initially had requested it through the normal budget process, and back in July we were given what I like to call a timeout. So we were basically told or instructed that before we invest a lot of money back in New World, are you happy with New World? And we were not at the time totally happy with New World. There were some issues with both functionality and some support issues that we felt we needed to get more information on before we decided to continue down that road. So we were also told, take a look at another public safety system to see if maybe there's something out there that would work better for you. So we started that process. We were obviously somewhat delayed by the hurricane, but we did start the process, and we took a look at a new public safety system, and we also, I'd like to say, we revitalized our relationship with New World and got some questions answered, and they've been very responsive to us. So we created what I would call an ad hoc committee using our different subject matter experts, our IT people, fire department, and police department personnel. And we did a couple of things. We made some site visits to some current customers of both the new public safety system we were thinking about going to, and also some current New World customers. We traveled as far as Hanover County, Virginia, and we went to Chesapeake, Virginia, and looked at those looked at their product, how they used their product, and were they happy with it. So after we had an opportunity to do that, we really felt like sticking with New World was going to be our best bet. And a couple key reasons why we felt New World was our best bet. And again, first and foremost is New World is a Tyler Technologies company, which is the same company as our Munis ERP and our financial software that we've purchased and are in the process of implementing. One of the big things that Tyler really wants to do is integrate all the different software applications within local government. So in other words, the public safety software would integrate with the ERP and financial software, which is important when you're talking about payroll and hurricanes and FEMA reimbursements, things like that. So that was one of the reasons. Secondly, to go to a new system would be almost like starting from scratch, which we certainly did not want to do because it's very resource intensive. We felt like New World under Tyler is a more stable company, and it really, after we revitalized that relationship with them, they really answered our questions, and it really gave us an opportunity to take a hard look at ourselves to make sure we were doing everything we should be doing. And what I mean by that is not everything was New World's fault. There were some things internally that we could do better to make the system work better, and New World helped us kind of realize that. So the cost of the CAD upgrade. So the cost is $143,250. I am happy to report that as of last week, we did get written confirmation from the North Carolina State 911 Board that they will cover, and they gave this to us in writing, they will cover $65,912 of that $143,000 cost. So the time frame, again, we're under a tight time frame, obviously, to get this done by January 2020. So if we were to move forward with this, we would have to really get the ball rolling as early as next month to be able to meet the 9 to 12 month time that would take to complete the project.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So if you go back, it says your cost is $143,250. Is that after taking out the roughly $66,000?
That's the total cost. So it would be the balance of subtracting $65,912 from that number would be what the city.
Because I guess we're asking for $266,460.
This is where Mr. Sabatelli comes in.
Slide 12.
Oh, you wait till the end to hit us.
That's
Okay.
the 143.
Making sure.
Yeah, the
I figured I had extra money to spend somewhere.
The 143,250 is mainly the required upgrades, the minimum required upgrades. There's some additional upgrades that we're proposing here as part of this budget amendment. So.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, this cost here is just the New World cost of the software, so to speak, or the service to do it. Okay, so that's the CAD Enterprise upgrade that we're asking for. This is the second component of the request. And what we're asking at this point is to add or purchase New World fire records to add to our records management system. And I'll quickly give you the history of that. So right now, currently, the fire department uses a application or software called Firehouse as the records management system. Now, the problem with Firehouse right now is it's a standalone system. It doesn't talk at all to our CAD or RMS. It literally, it's literally an application that just works by itself. And it's my understanding it's also getting ready to go away or not be a product soon. So obviously that's another issue. But most importantly, it does not currently interface with our CAD system. The FD several years ago chose not to utilize New World at the time because they didn't feel like the New World product met their needs. It didn't have the functionality. There were some things that I know Chief Boyd was not happy with. So that's why they chose to go with a third party in the first place. As we have revitalized this relationship with New World and got a chance, and the fire department personnel have had an opportunity to look at what New World offers today, they feel like it truly does fit their needs. And one of the most important things I think, as far as a lesson learned, is it's certainly a lot better to have a system, a records management system that's integrated with your computer-aided dispatch, as opposed to what they have to do now, which is get the CAD information and then manually enter into Firehouse, which is obviously time-consuming and not very efficient. So, I have to be clear on this number. So this $314,310, it includes the CAD upgrade, because obviously we're asking the CAD upgrade is we can't do one without the other, or it wouldn't make sense to do one without the other. So that price there is to include the enterprise CAD upgrade and to add fire records to our current records management system. And if we were to move forward with that, then that would basically happen at the same time as the CAD upgrade, within that same 9 to 12 month time frame. Whoa. Okay, and this might be where I need Mr. Sabatelli's help. But so what I do want to tell you is, as we went through the negotiation or renegotiation process with New World, one of the things that they agreed to do is reset our annual maintenance to a cost of about 46% lower than what we currently pay now. So that reset is contingent upon accepting the purchase in both parts. So it's the CAD upgrade and the records upgrade. And JR, if you don't mind, this is where you can kind of explain how there's a cost savings over time.
Essentially what's happening is the annual maintenance is being reduced and being reset from $166,000 in the current fiscal year down to $100,000 starting next fiscal year. So that $66,000 coupled with debt service is going to save us that funding over time. Also, the current contract or current maintenance agreement calls for a 4% annual increase. The new contract calls for 3%. So the annual maintenance is increasing at a decreased rate. So that creates a substantial amount of savings over a 10-year period.
So are you saying that that's gonna save us $66,000 a year over a 10-year period?
Yeah, roughly. Basically, what's going to save is the difference between the $2,048,000 showing up there under no change versus the furthest column to the right, the $1.787 million. That's just the total accumulated cost over a 10-year period.
Well, just real quick, as far as what you see up there on the chart, you've got the no change, which, in my opinion, is really not an option because we're going to have to do something. The reason why we're going to have to do something is because we don't have SQL support, and we won't have software support because it runs on old systems, old Windows systems that won't be supported any longer. So the difference between that is about $250,000, roughly. Okay, if you go to the CAD upgrade only, then they basically the one-time purchase plus whatever our annual maintenance is, then obviously you see what that total cost comes to, $2.285 million. The last column is reflecting the reduction of the annual maintenance cost, which is going down 46% back to the $100,000 versus the $166,000, as well as over the 10-year period, a 1% reduction in the rate of which it increases. So ultimately, you're looking at about a $500,000 difference if you look at the two different systems.
I have a question. So if we were to do this, you want to do it based on debt going out and getting a loan, you're saying? For the total amount, the $353, $392, the total cost of the software, if we were to do the CAD and add the fire records?
Actually, the amount we would go out for debt would be $266,460 because not the 911 funds. We have the money in hand from the 911 fund to cover the $60,000.
Then the second question would be: is the annual maintenance is $1.4 million? Is that what we would pay every year?
That's over a 10-year period.
Okay, yeah, I needed that to be added in. Because I'm thinking annual, it's every year. So you're saying that's over a 10-year period?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
How much money do we generate a year from the 911 fund?
It's about 300? Yeah, about 320,000.
And can that money be used to pay this debt with JR?
No, sir. The debt is on our share. The amount that they are covering in whole up front. So we basically have to take the total cost of the project, split it into two. They cover their share, and our share is just going to be covered with debt service.
Oh, Mackenzie.
I got a question. You seem like you need this thing pretty quick. You mentioned earlier in your conversation that you was gonna bring it during the budget time, and it didn't come through in the budget, during the budget season when we was doing the budget, and now you say it needs to be ready by January. That's, I'm just concerned with that part there, why it takes so long to try to now come up with the money to find out when we knew that we needed this.
I'll answer that. I will tell you that that was the budget committee. Mainly my recommendation was to push this off and the assistant city manager, because at that time we were evaluating different software products, and those different software products were proposing potential savings to our city. And what we subsequently have done is negotiated with Tyler Technologies on the implementation of both of these systems to where we can potentially save $500,000 over a 10-year period through reducing what our annual maintenance cost was. So if we would have just pushed this through the budget season and did the CAD-only upgrade, over 10 years it would have cost us $500,000 in addition.
Now, another thing, the New World, you were saying that who else that has this system that's close by versus going all the way to Virginia that's near us? Is there anyone else that's near us that has the same system?
I want to answer that real quickly, if you don't mind. Two people very close to us. Craven County is one of them, who has gone to the Tyler, product, as well as the city of Havelock. So another advantage of staying with the Tyler products during this particular situation is if there is ever an instance that we look at a potential consolidation of 911 between the county and Havelock and the city of New Bern, it greatly behooves our interest for us to all be working on the same systems. And I think we learned our lesson, quite frankly. I came here in 2011, and at that time they were implementing the radio systems, and I think we've learned our lesson on that.
Can I just add a comment to that, Mr. Kinsey? Based on that information, I mean, it would have been great for all three areas to come together and broker a deal with this company for a deal for software if we're all going to be using it. And I know we've had talks to consolidating. I mean, that's just a thought.
Generally speaking, the software companies don't work like that because we are individual entities, so it's very difficult for us to approach it that way, if almost impossible.
Forward thinking, it's a possibility.
Well, there's always a possibility, but trust me, I think we've
millions of dollars.
We've gone down that route before.
Yeah.
All right. Is this the end of your presentation?
Yes, sir. There was just kind of packaging the same cost in a different way. That's it. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, I know for a long time the fire departments needed RMS software. What we were using when I was fire chief wasn't proper. So, but I got a question for you. With that 911 funds, what do we use that money for?
So we use it for So as you know, it's anything that involves the initial call taking, the 911 call. So a lot of what we use it for involves the actual, the call taker, so to speak, the telecommunicators. It's the training. It covers their training. It covers some of the equipment in the comm center, to include furniture, things like that. So if you look at the overall CAD, I know it doesn't seem like it's covered about, I guess it's about 46% of it, but CAD also involves parts of I'll say police work that is not involved with the direct 911 call taking, like the message switch to run our NCIC to check stolen vehicles and wanted people. Well, 911 doesn't cover that, so there's a lot of cost that's under the CAD umbrella that's not part of the call taking, so to speak, or the 911 call taking.
Does that money in the budget, is it shown under the police department budget as revenue?
No, sir. It's, there's the Emergency Telephone System Fund. It's Fund 2911 that accounts for that. I just want to kind of add to what Captain Jones was saying is the annual maintenance, part of the annual maintenance costs are also paid by the 911 fund. So a portion of that $100,000 will be paid by the 911 fund.
So those figures you were just showing for the annual maintenance can be covered out of those.
Yeah.
I thought that was the question I asked.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the debt service. The debt service cannot
Maybe
be
it
covered.
was.
Yeah,
Okay.
debt service cannot be covered. The annual maintenance.
No, you
portion
asked
of
what the
that
funds could be used for.
can.
Yeah.
Alderman Odom.
Mr. Sabatelli, I think you were getting real close to answering my question before I asked it, but from an internal, and I realize at the end of the day it's all general fund expenditures, but is there an allocation portion of this new software that's now going to be part of the fire department, will the fire department's budget now carry some of this burden for this, both debt service and service?
Yes. Yes, their portion of the annual maintenance will go to the fire department.
Okay, thank you.
Questions?
I'm done.
Question.
We gotta have it. I mean, I'm all in
We
favor.
gotta have it, so, I mean, it's for, we're not, I look at it from a potential standpoint that, hey, if we need this system in place and we're on extended time right now, and for the safety of our citizens in our city, I mean, there's no question about it. It's just something that we have to do.
I think one thing that I tried research on this, and Alderman Boyd, Chief Boyd, and Alderman Odom. Might be an alderman up the road, who knows?
There you go.
We had that study with the fire chiefs throughout North Carolina, and what is the possibility and probability of more expeditious routing, et cetera? This would automatically route versus manual route. Is that correct?
It does, and I'm not an expert when it comes to this, but with the GPS in the vehicles, the CAD will allow you to pick the closest unit, even if it's a unit that's not normally in that area, if that makes sense to you. So it does make it more efficient. One of the other things it does, which I think is pretty neat, is you can identify either certain pieces of equipment on a vehicle or a specific skill set, like an officer trained with crisis intervention. So if you have a certain type of call, it's going to say, well, the closest crisis intervention officer is here, and it can dispatch you to it.
Now, I'm a little concerned with, I don't know what in the industry the margin of error would be, that if you hypothetically have a Craven Street over here and a Craven Street, there is one in Havelock. If the routing, the computer inadvertently routed to the wrong address, the correction time would possibly be longer by manual override than if you had just a... I'm not trying to talk myself out of this. I think this is going to shave seconds off of response time is what I'm hoping. I see the chief, future Alderman Boyd, coming up here to answer that.
I will say,
Where he lives.
Chief for right now.
I will say that, and I'm not sure how it works, but GIS does know the difference between a Craven Street in the county and a Craven Street in the city. There are, again, I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I know it does verify those addresses. It geo-verifies those addresses to make sure it's sending them to the right place.
Well, the good thing about this software, if that happens, you can initiate the call taking and transfer it to Havelock, correct?
Correct. You can
without
actually put
transferring the caller. And there's nothing worse than somebody standing there during an emergency and you say you got to put you on hold and transfer you to someone else.
And that's essentially what we're doing now when we get a misdirected call that belongs to Craven or vice versa.
And didn't you say previously that the system would have the communication ability to direct the calls directly?
Yeah, you could actually, we could take a call, enter it, and send it to Craven through the CAD as opposed to sending a phone call to them.
Okay.
Chief Boyd, were you going to help us out on this? You know what concern we had? We were sitting there for an hour trying to figure out how to shave a couple of seconds off of the response time. Because response time could be 45 seconds to a minute. Was that what we were talking?
Yes, sir. I mean, the CAD to CAD, the CAD to CAD actually excites me because it's going to give us a great opportunity to continue to build that relationship with the county, where we can dispatch, like Captain Jones was saying, it would be able to dispatch the closest unit no matter where we're going. So it's going to be a great opportunity, and with the RMS intertwined into that also, it's going to shave time, help us, because everything we populated onto our computer, where now we have to wait for everything to come in. So it'll be right there, all the addresses and everything. So it's just a matter of us. Yes, it will help us in the moment.
Okay. Any other questions?
No. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the budget ordinance amendment for the FY 2018-19 operating budget.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Harris, seconded by Alderman Kinsey. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Bingle.
Alderman Bingle? Yes. Alderwoman Harris?
Yes.
Alderman Astor?
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw?
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey?
Yes.
Alderman Best?
Yes.
Alderman Odom?
Yes.
Okay, congratulations. Thank you for all your hard work, patience on that item. Item number 15.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 15 is consideration by the board to adopt a resolution approving a declaration of intent to reimburse for FY 18-19 capital purchases. Basically, the decision that you just made now will be an additional $266,460 of additional debt proceeds that we would seek, bringing the total for the year revised to $1,415,535. Now, keep in mind, if we get towards the end of the year and we foresee that some of this can be paid down, we obviously always look at that. But we are required at the time that we're considering things like this, if we plan to potentially reimburse ourselves through capital purchase, through debt proceeds on a capital purchase, then at that point we have to declare that intent. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Alderman Odom.
Mayor, I know that the timing comes into play with these decisions, but with the fact that we're cash strapped in a sense with the storm, waiting for reimbursement that could take ever how long FEMA decides to give it to us, as well as the rise in interest rates, I would like to see us expedite this financing package as soon as possible before interest rates continue to rise, because they're going up.
Yeah.
That would be my preference. Let's go ahead and put this out for bid now. If we get it back and it's something we don't want to do, we don't have to, but is there any reason why we would not do that?
No, actually, I was thinking something very similar. Is provided we don't approve it prior to December 31st, it won't affect this current fiscal year's budget. As long as we do it sometime in January, it'll be fine.
Should that be included in the motion?
No, just general direction is fine.
Okay. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution approving a declaration of intent to reimburse for FY 2018-19 capital purchases.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Harris, seconded by Alderman Odom. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Odom.
Alderman Odom?
Yes.
Alderman Best?
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey?
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw?
Yes.
Alderman Astor?
Yes, ma'am.
Alderwoman Harris?
Yes.
Alderman Bingle? Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 16.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 16 is consideration by the board to adopt an amendment to the grant project ordinance for the Hurricane Florence Fund. On the 9th of October 2018, the Hurricane Florence Grant Fund was established with an initial budget of $4.4 million. As recovery efforts, repairs, replacements, mitigation costs continue to increase, additional funding will be needed. At this time, an additional $3.6 million is required to allow the recovery efforts to continue. Mr. Sabatelli has included a memo in your packet, and he's also provided some financial summary and estimates if you wish to see that or hear that at this point. But ultimately, we want to continue our efforts without any kind of delays. So that's the reason why in item number 16 we're requesting the board's approval. Would you want to go over some of this?
Just to start out with, what is your total right now? What you're thinking the city is?
So our total paid to date, we're at about a little over $5.3 million.
Where do you think we're going to be total?
Well, when a lot of it still is kind of dependent upon the outcomes of the insurance determinations on certain properties that we have throughout the city. But we could be anywhere in the 13.8 to about $15 million range is where we're going to be. Just to kind of give you an idea, the general fund estimated fund balance at June 30 of 18 was $14,300,000 plus a little bit, which represented about 36.89% of our budget. The worst case scenario, we're looking at being somewhere close to the 25%, 24.8% roughly. Probability, our case will be somewhere around the 30 to 33% range by the time we get all said and done. That's just a general fund balance. Obviously, we've only received to date about $178,000 of revenues, and I will tell you that our consultants, they are constantly working with these projects that we have where we have damages. We should be expecting our insurance determinations on loss this week. We were hoping to get a good portion of those, if not all of them, this week as far as those loss values. Just to kind of give you real quickly on where the water, sewer, and electric funds are. So our water fund, estimated days of cash on hand at the end of last fiscal year, we had about 333 days. Our worst case estimate, we're looking at about 300 days. So we're still good. Our policy is 240, so we should be good on water. Obviously, we didn't sustain a whole lot of water damage. Sewer, our policy is 175 days. Our estimated days of cash on hand at the end of the fiscal year was 179 as of 2008 fiscal year ending 2018. Worst case, we're looking at about 122 on our sewer. Obviously, we've had some sewer impacts, some costs associated with that. So we could be potentially looking at being below our policy, which we potentially will get reimbursed. Those funds will get restored through FEMA proceeds and things like that. Electric, the policy is 90 days cash on hand. Our estimated days of cash at the end of fiscal year 18 was 136. Worst case estimate days of cash on hand is about 115, so we should be good on our electric fund as well. And keep in mind, once again, that those funds also are FEMA eligible as far as us seeking reimbursement on those. Just to kind of give you an idea where we are with our status with FEMA and our consultant. Our damages and labor and contract costs are being gathered for submission to FEMA. A number of those damages have been submitted for emergency work, and FEMA has assigned them to a project. Our insurance on damaged facilities has been inspected. Most costing has occurred. We should get those final determinations, hopefully, like I said, this week. November the 29th was our kickoff meeting, our first FEMA applicant meeting of record. And then the initial listing of damages, all of those have been submitted to FEMA. I think we had, 100 properties that we were looking at that had some kind of damage. That doesn't mean that's the amount of project worksheets, but that's just different kinds of damages and properties that we submitted. Historical issues, environmental issues also have to be identified. Those have been done. So we have done so. We submitted those to FEMA. Obviously, anytime we have historical properties that we're dealing with, City Hall is one of them. We have to get approval from the state before we proceed with any kind of work. So that's something that we're required to do. We have some site inspections scheduled with FEMA coming up in January. The guidance from New Bern relative to certain damaged buildings has been directed, and action is being taken to maximize recovery initiatives. There's a lot of data that's still pending regarding the cost of debris removal and disposal. We're still accumulating all of our mutual aid contract costs, as well as our, I think, Matt, you got probably the last ones in on here relatively, like last week or something. Got 5 more to finish up. Yeah, so we still got to get those in from our different sister cities that helped us out with regards to their staff costs, their equipment costs, making sure that it's broken down and allocated correctly so that we can submit that for FEMA. And then our electric utility damages recovery. Obviously, Charlie's working on that information and our accounting with JR. We've been having regular meetings with our consultant and FEMA on these expected losses. And once again, I think our initial plan is for us to go out and seek our emergency repairs money, because most of that work was completed very early on. So we're going to try to seek that money. Our force account labor work, most of that information is almost completed. So we will be able to combine that with some of these smaller type projects and start going after those. Obviously, the big ticket items are, the electrical costs, which go back into the electrical fund, the debris cost, which once we have that cost basically from our contractor as well as our mutual aid contracts, we will be able to submit those along with our force account labor. And so those are 2 big whammies. Once we get those, those will be a significant portion of those costs. The ones that take a while are your project worksheets regarding damaged properties, and those get submitted based on how we process through them. Obviously, we have to wait until we get our insurance costs before we can submit those in and finalize the FEMA documents. But that kind of gives you an idea where we are. JR, do you want to add anything as well from where? No, and JR put this document together, so he happy to share that with you. We'll distribute that to the board via PDF tomorrow. That way you'll be able to have that on hand, and then we'll continually try to keep you all updated. Maybe we'll do it again in January, give you all an update as to where we are.
I was going to at some point bring this up, and I guess this is maybe a very digressive item to bring up, but end of the day, it looks bad on the city of Newbern, not the state, federal government, the county, when these boats are sitting out here in the water. It looks like we're not able to make it happen, be it with the Coast Guard or whatever. I don't know that we can get some FEMA reimbursement, but that is if I'd at least ask the question that I don't care if we get them out of the water and impound them with the local salvage company. I know you can update the board on what we did on the last one.
Sure. But
I do not think that a boat needs to be permanently docked at a city dock, as is the case with one of them. And then there's one, and in one instance, I believe somebody drug a boat over so that we would be responsible for it. And, I don't know if we need to get some different investigative authorities together to kind of figure out what's going on here. But at the end of the day, it just doesn't look good from the bridge or wherever to see these boats sitting out here. And I think that the city should take some action. Tell the board what we did on those last couple of boats.
Sure. Mayor, that was well, it's unfortunate that we had to address those, and it's unfortunate that they get abandoned like that. But they sat out there for a long time. There were 2 sailboats, 2 or 3, that we had that were out off of Lawson Creek Park for some time. One was basically right next to the Twin Span Bridge. One was tied up out to a mooring right in the middle of the right there off of the point of Lawson Creek. Essentially, we contracted with the local salvage yard and had them come in and pull the boat. The issue is with the maritime laws is once you kind of touch it and you bring it up, you own it. So what we did is we worked out a deal with that salvage company to where we didn't own it. We indemnified ourselves at that point. We paid him for the work completed. He owned the boat at that point. So sort of like an impounding, I guess, if you want to call it that, but ultimately we don't have any kind of ownership once we did that. So we paid for him to remove it. I know, Foster, you had kind of reached out about the individual who's docked there. I think he's in the process of getting that boat out. And I think weren't you going to reach out as well to some companies about removal?
That's correct. We're waiting to get some prices to remove the boat that is on its side. So I did talk to the boat owner on Saturday and asked him to have that boat removed by Sunday. Of course, he didn't remove it Sunday, didn't remove it Monday. So we have had our staff out there monitoring. We've been to that boat. We've had the police come out to the boat. So far, no one is there. I've been consulting with the city attorney, and the next step is to basically have the police cite this person. So the thing is finding the boat owner to do the citation to where he can move it at this time.
Is he tied to one of our pylons? Is he tied to our dock?
He is.
And that was when that piece of that boating actually was removed from the center area of Lawson Creek Park. The other two, we kind of think they may have shown up, either they were drugged there or that they may have shown up during the follow-up Hurricane Michael storm whenever we had some increase in wave action and things like that, where it may have.
What would the board like to do about this?
Well,
I
first
would
I
like
would
to
like
vote on the motion.
Yeah, can we do this?
On the
And
agenda
we can bring
item
that up
we
on new
move
business.
Are you ready to make a motion?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt an amendment to the grant project ordinance for the Hurricane Florence flood.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Harris, seconded by Alderman Bingle. Is there discussion? On favor, let's go with a roll call, starting with Alderman Bingle.
Alderman Bingle?
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris?
Yes.
Alderman Astor?
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw?
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey?
Yes.
Alderman Best?
Yes.
Alderman Odom?
Yes.
Motion carries. Would you like to say something about that?
Me?
Anybody?
I mean, I think Foster is on the right track there. He's contacted the owner of one. He's told him he was going to come get his boat. I mean, it's a nice boat. So, I mean, I'm sure the owner's trying to make arrangements to get it out. The other one, were you able to ever read any numbers off the side of that thing to find out who the owner was? No. Does it not have numbers on it?
Probably does. Yeah. There's actually two that are off of the point there at Lawson Creek Park. One you can see very clearly. The other is sunk down pretty low. But we're happy to do whatever the board directs us to do. Obviously, like I said, the maritime law is once you pick it up, you touch it, you own it. Happy to do whatever. I will say that one of the things from the previous time when we had those boats out there is they were generating a lot of 911 calls for Bobby's staff that have to respond to them in the police department because people were riding along the bridge, the Trent River Bridge, and they saw a boat out there sunk, and they were calling in calls, say there's a boat sinking, and we have to respond to calls.
What I don't like about it, kind of, to me, litter makes litter, and I just don't want New Bern to be a haven for people to drag boats up here, that if we're not doing anything about it, we're tolerating that type of activity. So I think we need to get them out of the water.
So you said that there's two boats down there, one you can identify with a number and the other one you can't?
There's three boats technically. One, he's been in contact with the owner. We gave him a deadline. We can probably cite him because he's connected to our property. Okay. The other two, we have not got the numbers off of, and we can have that. Those are sunk, which essentially they'd have to be raised and removed.
So once you get the numbers off them, you can contact DMV, right? They can. Can't make them do that. You can't contact DMV for the registration number?
You can find the owner.
Yeah,
I'm
through
sure
DMV.
through wildlife.
Wildlife, exactly.
But if the owner says, I don't want to do anything with it, there's nothing that can be done at that point in time.
Is it a working boat?
No, it's a sailboat, but it's not in navigable waters, so there's no. The way I understand, Foster, is that right? I mean, it's not in navigable waters, so therefore the Coast Guard says you can do whatever you want to do with it.
What generally happens if a boat is restricting the navigable waters, which means the channel in which people typically are operating in, then the Coast Guard at that point will remove that boat. But if it's not in navigable waters, then they will leave it. The state did appropriate funds during the recovery of Hurricane Florence for the raising of boats strictly for the removal of hazardous materials, and then they sunk the boat right back down.
Could we not claim through the Coast Guard that because that boat is sitting right off the end of our ramp, that could be navigable waters? Do you think that's the argument that the Coast Guard would accept?
We obviously can try.
You know, Danny Hill might be able to help you with that.
They're having their fire demonstration.
No, he's in the Coast Guard, the local Coast Guard.
Mayor, are you suggesting that we need to have a policy? Because I don't think that there's a policy, we don't need to have one, but, you know, obviously they're citing, they're following the law, but beyond that, there's really nothing else we can do, correct?
Well, what we did.
Our pay to have them remove their cells.
We paid $6,000 for one of them.
I think one was 5 and one was 25 and 4,000.
They were any good, I would call Robert Salvage and have him go and pound them and see if anybody wants.
Can we
Well,
sell them to
Eugene
used
might.
parts?
Of course, Eugene hadn't responded to any of our requests so far, so.
Okay, well, anyway, we would appreciate what staff can do on that item. This time, we're gonna go to appointments. Alderman Odom.
None tonight, sir.
Alderman Best.
None.
Alderman Kinsey.
None.
Alderman Astor.
None.
Alderman Harris.
None.
Alderman Bingham.
I want to go ahead and make an appointment for the library board. You all have so nicely put me on that board, and we're trying to fill up the empty spaces. So at this time, I would like to appoint Stacy Shields Lee, who is a native New Bernian, school teacher, retired, came back to this area to live. Glad to have her here, and she is interested.
Thank you. What's her name, Sharon?
Stacy Lee.
Thank you, Stacy.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Attorney's report.
Nothing important tonight, Mayor.
City manager's report.
I have two quick things, Mayor. One, I think we've kind of already discussed that, but the Old Airport Road drawings, I know that was something that the board had approved us to pursue. We had established a project fund for it. We just recently received, as of this week, 75% plans. Those do show the widenings of Old Airport Road along the area where the rezoning occurred that you approved tonight. Obviously, we will be coming back to the board for some consideration of funding for that. As you recall, we are obligated to some extent to do that improvement because we received the NCDOT funds in the amount of $687,000 for us to take over those roads because we wanted to improve them. So once we get to a little bit more of a final state, I guess, with the design of those, and we're happy to share those with you if you want to take a look at them, then at that point we will be looking to come to the board for a budget amendment to complete that work. I think we have 2 years, is that correct, Matt, to complete that? Obviously, there's consulting fees. There may be a little bit of construction easement, a small amount of property acquisition, some construction. Obviously, the majority of it would be construction costs. Right now, we're kind of estimating the total project cost with the widening as well as the reworking of the ditches and the piping if necessary to do that. Would total somewhere around $2.2 million, $687,000 of that being the share of NCDOT that was given to us for taking over the road. That's that item. Happy to answer any other questions the board has on it. The other item I wanted real quickly for Mr. Ruggieri, is he still here? Mr. Ruggieri was Ms. Potts. I don't think she might have left. But Jeff is going to kind of give a quick update on where we are with the community rating system. The community rating system is a system that we were working on for some time. I know there's some questions that have arisen from the after Hurricane Florence about the community rating system, about how some other communities had it. We did away with it some years ago, but I'm going to turn it over to Jeff. He's got some quick updates as to where we are with that because we were working on it very diligently.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. We began trying to get back into the community rating system in the summer of 2017. In order to get into the system, you essentially have to survive an audit from the National Flood Insurance Program. So we contacted the Eastern Branch of the NFIP, and they sent one of their representatives to the city to audit our development files that we have in the office. And what they do is they take a 10-year period and they pull every development file that you have in the floodplain, and they're looking for if it would comply with the NFIP system. After their initial audit, we had over 100 properties that weren't in compliance, so we had to remedy that. So our staff went working on that. We got that number of over 100 down to 12 that we are currently still sitting at number 12. In May of this year, that person that we've been working with for about a year left, and we got transferred to another representative that works the western part of the state, which kind of slowed things down. But as of right now, we have those 12 properties. We need to, in order to remedy the situation, we essentially have to spend some money to fix the problems. We have to get elevation certificates for each one of those properties. We have to do some construction modifications to properties, install flood vents, raise air conditioning units out of the floodplain, things like that in order to get into the program. Estimation to get the surveys done. We've talked to a bunch of surveyors. We have 12. We have a $4,000 to do that. And then the construction part of it, very rough estimation, somewhere between $50,000 to $60,000 to do all the construction fixes in order to get into the program. At that time, we'd be in compliance, and we could be in the NFIP program, and overall would save citizens of New Bern who have flood insurance in the floodplain a aggregate savings of about $42,000 a year in overall premium costs spread around everybody within the program.
So what happens if, we get back in it and in a year's time we're non-compliant with 4 or 5 houses? Do we get taken right back out of the system if we have, do we get a mulligan? Do we get a certain margin of?
It's 100% compliance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what do you do how do you, I guess once you're compliant, aren't you? Except, anything new would meet that standard.
Correct.
Anyway.
Yeah, and we've gone through all the files, and a few of the problems we really don't have an answer for. But at this point in time, we have 2 people on staff, one being the chief building official, who is a certified floodplains manager. We review all the files for compliance.
Would these homeowners, would there be any reason why they would not want us to modify their homes?
No, haven't had those conversations yet.
Well, I just think, if you're going to save that kind of money in 1 year, we're looking down the road 10 or 20 years, it's the right thing to do. So, does the board have questions about this?
No, it's been brought to our attention, and I would, we could get it done.
Mr. Saptel, how much money, like in community development, is that like 15,000 line item?
40.
Huh?
Was 40, and we put it, right, our community development fund, is that what we put towards
I'm
the
just asking, do
redevelopment
we
commission?
use the community development funds to do some of this?
Do we use it for a redevelopment commission?
Could we get some type of reimbursement from a grant? How can we fund this? Go ahead and do it.
I'm not sure. I have to look into
We use
grant
community
opportunities.
development block grant.
Yeah,
funds.
I'm not sure, because those have to, that money is for affected,
So we use disaster relief community block.
quite possibly. Haven't had those conversations yet.
Yeah.
Will
I think we'll find the money.
Would FEMA reimburse us?
Huh?
Would FEMA reimburse us?
Well, they?
That's an ID issue.
I think the appropriate thing at this point is recognizing that, staff's been working on this. We've really narrowed it down to several problem areas. What I would like to do is investigate the legal side of things at this point, so to make sure that we're in compliant with the funds. If we allocate money, typically cities who allocate money for private for private benefit is a no-no. But maybe if programs are set up through CDBG for certain things, or if they qualify, or other types of things, we could potentially look at that. So what we'd like to do is look at those funding mechanisms. But ultimately, we wanted to provide the public some information. I know, Alderman Odom, you brought up, and that's one of the other things I kind of hit on, brought up at our last meeting, to try to compile all of the work that this board, as well as staff, have been doing. I've heard from a lot of people, and right now my list is at 5 pages of a Word document of all the different things that we've done, which I will finalize that and get it to the board. Ultimately, like I said, I don't know what all other things the board has done. If you have any, please send them to me. But I know from my staff standpoint, and I know Alderman, you sent me kind of some examples you had. We have about 5 pages of combined information. But I think at this point with this matter, I just want to kind of give an update as to where we are, because I know it was something that was brought up with the community rating. I know the board was interested in it at that time, so I wanted to give an update as to where we are, how we can move forward, and then ultimately get together with Scott. And then if you would like, I would bring this to you in an agenda item, maybe in January, or even discuss it at our retreat, and then determine where the board wishes to go.
Well, I'd like to, if we could, take action on it at the next meeting.
Yeah, I would too.
Does anybody have a problem with that on the board?
That's good. I agree.
Okay. Well, thank you for that report and that update. Do you have anything else, sir?
Just
Ms. Stevens.
Last meeting of the year, I want to wish everybody Merry Christmas.
Just want to talk about the sign name?
Oh, yeah, real quickly, I know there was something.
Do we have a van or wait to hold it up for us?
Vanamore.
You gotta walk down the side.
Obviously, we were producing some signs. We have, about 25 or 30% of the city covered already with these. We just got them this week. So we've got this out for any kind of questions that people may have. We've located them primarily in most of the prone areas, hurricane flood-prone areas, which would be North Hills, Woodrow, Oaks Road areas, where else, Matt? Trappers Creek, a lot of those areas, and we'll continue to be distributed.
Old Town.
We're going to continue
downtown.
distributing them all over the place, but obviously, those were significantly impacted areas, and we just got them this week. So we wanted to show that to you that we do have those signs, and they are going to be out throughout the city.
Thank you.
And Merry
Anything
Christmas. No, that's it, sir.
Okay, we're going to go to new business. I'd like to start out new business before, I'd just like to mention a couple of things. It's been a tough year with the hurricane. I really want to thank the city and even staff. In many instances, you were many days without sleep. Many of you had damages of your own. And it's just overwhelming the amount of work that our staff did during this time. I'd also like to thank this Board of Aldermen. I've really enjoyed this year. We've had a hard year, but it's been a good year, and we've really supported each other, and we've worked really hard. So what I want to say is that the coming year is probably going to be a tough budget year with, waiting on the FEMA reimbursements and all. But we do want to continue to focus. I just wrote down some things tonight, just thinking about them for next year. Certainly, obviously, the resiliency of our community and this community rating system. But I was just sitting here thinking of a few things. The crisis of affordable housing in New Bern, to continue whatever we can do as a city to help make it happen with more units of affordable housing, hurricane preparedness, FEMA reimbursements, boats in the water, and policy on that. And just a big one that, like yesterday with the storm, with the rain we had, which was nowhere near a 25-year event, some of the drainage issues that we hopefully going to work through with USDA and FEMA. But I did want to leave my comments on our new business with one thought in mind. This is fixing to be 2019. This is a great city. And I'm just going to say this to Alderman Bingham for her hard work on one item. Let's let 2019 be the year of the elevator.
It's going to be part of my comments.
Okay, so I'm going to go to you first and let you harp on that. Seriously, let's let this be the year of the elevator. Let's work that out.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mayor Outlaw. And again, I did want to reflect on our year, which was a good year, and I do appreciate the working abilities we had with one another. I really do appreciate it. I think we all came onto this board with a little hesitation, unsure of what the year was going to hold or the future was going to hold, but I'm been very well pleased and impressed with my colleagues and our ability to work together. So thank you all. You know, looking back, we had some great achievements. For me personally, the Redevelopment Commission was a great achievement, that we got it off the ground and it is up and working with some great people on it. I also think the fact that we were able to address utility deposits. I want to thank Alderman Best and Alderman Harris for joining me in really pressing JR and the staff to cap the utility deposits at $500 and really work with people and their fees, because at the end of the day, we want people to pay their bills, and anything we can do to help them is important. Also, too, the budget process, we took more looks, we slowed it down, we asked more questions, we talked to department heads, and I really hope that we will continue to do that in the future. We stormed through parking, and we still have work to do on that, but it was a good thing for that. Of course, we had more engagement in the storm, and that is something that nobody can ever prepare for. We didn't come into the year preparing for that, but as a board, I think we did a good job in speaking to the public. I believe we held more press conferences and spoke more directly to the public than any other body I saw in the region. So thank you to my colleagues. What do we do in looking to the future? We must get City Hall accessible. And I'm going to look into the camera and I'm going to speak to Brandon Hildreth. Everybody knows Brandon. He is the young man who forged through the accessible icon that we see throughout our cities. He's a wonderful young man, and he asks me every week, what are you doing about helping me get into City Hall? He wants to be in this building. He wants to attend meetings. He wants to come up into this courtroom, and he can't. I mean, we can carry him. Yes, we have the carry chair, but he wants to be able to do this under his own power. And without an elevator, he cannot do that. Without a ramp, he cannot do that. So in 2019, my focus will be on City Hall and its accessibility and what we can do to upgrade this building and open it for our citizens. Today, we had 38 5-year-olds come into this building and learn the history of this wonderful structure and what it means to not only our citizens of the past and present, but to the citizens of the future and these young leaders who will come before us in 20, 30 years, who knows. So we must preserve this building. We must preserve the history of this building. We must label things. We must let people know what they see here. So that will be a project that I will put my heart and soul into in the next year. I'm going to continue to work on the budget and finding new ways outside of the box thinking with my colleagues so we can get work better with our department heads and getting what we need. I want us all to be thinking about continuing working on a strategic plan that is vibrant and that continues to grow as our community grows. And of course, housing. What we see in this community is unacceptable. We have people living in conditions such as Trent Court that are unacceptable. And we need to work as a community to provide affordable housing for people of all diversities across the board. Everybody from the poorest of the poor to the working poor, to the entry-level teacher, emergency worker, whatever. They all need housing, and we need to find a level for that housing. And then the last thing is I'm looking forward to having a conversation with the county. We must continue as a board to press that. Every time you see a commissioner, say, are you going to meet with us? Will you meet with us? Are you willing to have these conversations? I think it is so important, and I want to congratulate former Alderman Bucher and former Alderman Mitchell as they get onto the Board of Commissioners, and really hope that they will open their arms and ears to work with us. Thank you. And Merry Christmas to everybody, and blessed season, and a happy, healthy, and prosperous new year.
All right, I had to type mine up, just that, don't forget it. Thank you, Mayor. First and foremost, I just want to give honor to God because tomorrow will mark 1 full year of being an alderwoman and representing the city. It has been an amazing year, great experiences, and I just want to thank my fellow constituents that voted me in to represent them in Ward 2. I really appreciate it. And then I just want to continue to have innovative conversations that will continue to cultivate new ideas, the new energy and new results. And while doing that, we create policies that will push our city into the future. With that being said, there's two things that I would love to talk about and open up discussion next year. Would be the citation in lieu of arrest. I know right now there isn't a policy in that, but with everything that's going on in North Carolina and all the things that are going to be coming down the pipeline, I feel like we should have some sort of policy. Right now, there isn't a policy, so it allows a police officer to make the decision on whether they want to arrest someone or whether they give them a citation. But I want to have the conversation in regards to making it a policy that we do a citation in lieu of arresting, because there's individuals that, in different communities that suffer from going to jail and losing out on work. And then the second thing would be is that, we are live streaming on Facebook. We've got over that hurdle, and I think it would be a great idea to figure a way where it's not interfering with our ability to run our meetings, because I know me and Alderman Bengal, we like to answer the questions, but create a way, or even have someone that's willing to come and kind of curate the comments that come in and vet them, and be able to, on the months in the beginning when we are looking for petitions for citizens or comments that they live in the city, and that comment is brought forth for us to discuss. So I would like to cultivate a conversation on that, which brings me to the point of there is no policy on social media on how we need to go about aldermen and mayors and how we need to handle ourselves and carry ourselves when it comes to social media. And so I think that's definitely a conversation, discussion, or ad hoc group, preferably in the retreat. I would like to discuss our forward thinking, because we would probably be the first municipality to create some sort of policy about that. But I just want to put those two things out there. And then the third would be definitely making sure that we urge and continue the conversation. I know I've been talking to Alderman Bengal, and I'm putting together a group where it'd be 2 board members from each sector, and then we get with the chief of police and the Sheriff's Department and a few people from the Board of Education, where we meet quarterly to kind of talk about different things that we can work together on, and see where we can help, where they can help us. I think it's important that we have these conversations. I know we've had items on the board like, the SRO, and we were kind of up in the air about it, but if we had a group where we were meeting and talking about this, I think it'd be easier for us to discuss and move forward and vote on things. So I think those are the 3 things that I want to do. Again, thank you to my board members for this great opportunity and experience. I can't wait to see what next year has for us. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's.
Alderman Ashe.
First, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to thank you for keeping this board on track and keeping us in the right direction. I also would like to thank the city manager for doing the same thing with staff. But, the department heads and staff have just been wonderful this year. I mean, they have gone through a lot. They've been away from their homes, their families. They've worked in some weather that was just, most people wouldn't think about being out in. So the citizens of New Bern could have some of the luxuries of electrical power and police protection and fire protection. I mean, it's interesting. I've had to witness it a couple of times, but when you're fighting fire in waist-deep water, you've got to be a pretty dedicated person to do something like that. I also want to ask the city manager if he could give us, when this is over with, maybe if he could give us a little update on Airport Road to the public, so the public will know what's going on, or either if you could send me this paperwork and let me submit it out to some of our homeowners association that's interested in Old Airport Road. I too would like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, and most importantly, stay safe during the holidays.
Okay, thank you, sir. Alderman Kinsey.
Well, it was an honor and a privilege to be able to serve with this board here, and it's been a very good experience, and I've continued to learn more and more. I want to thank the staff for a great job. It was very, very difficult when the storm came through, but we came through as well. And I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year, and looking forward for a new year, for a new beginning, to turn the city around, to make a new step.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Alderman Best.
I don't know where to start. First, I just want to thank you, Mayor, and Mayor Pro Tem Bingle, for all that you've done for me, this city, during the hurricane. You two were, and also Alderman Astor, I can't forget him. He was a great aid, coming to my aid for the different areas of my ward, especially the Oaks Road, North Hills Drive area. I appreciate that. I thank you very much. It has been it's been a learning experience for me, and I am eager and waiting for the next year to come upon us so that I can learn more and be able to help my constituents and all residents, all citizens of this city, because I know myself, I put myself in a lot of my constituents' place right now, because a lot of them are displaced from their homes and they're still in a stressful situation, and I just want to be able to reach out to them and help them in any way that I can. And I know this board is 100% behind me. We've all worked together trying to accomplish that goal, so let's continue to do that. Also, I'd like to thank Alderman Kinsey. He has reached out to me and given me some very vital information about a lot of things that he's have experience in. He's been with this board for 2 terms, so he's given me a lot of information that's been very helpful. And I just want to thank all of you again. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's. And I cannot forget the city staff, because if it wasn't for all of the city staff, the employees, we cannot run this city. Without you, we are nothing. We're just sitting up here making the rules, and dishing out the work. But if you're not there with us, behind us, standing behind us, and you're doing an excellent job, I just appreciate each and every one of you. Secondly, Mark, I want to ask you a question, and I forgot about it. During the time when you were the Hurricane Florence relief, you asked for an increase of $3.6 million. Is that all coming from the general fund, or is that coming from water, sewer, electric? How does that work?
The way that budget amendment was set up is the expectation is that money will be reimbursed through FEMA.
Okay.
So that's the expectation. The way we are set up and the way the ordinance was established is that we are making a temporary loan from the other funds to this grant fund to float the money, and it will get reimbursed once we get the grant money back in.
Okay. I had another question. Oh, yes. The gentleman that's coming from USDA, how is that, who's going to handle that? Is it going to be someone from our Public Works Department, Engineering Department, or who's going to handle that portion of that, where this gentleman can go out and cover the city and to see the necessary projects that needs to be handled?
Yeah, I think the intent was for myself, Mayor. I think you were coming, Matt and Jordan. I think we're planning to attend with this gentleman. Brenda, was there anybody else you were aware of? I think that was pretty much it.
Okay, because I just have some concerns, and my main concern is the canal. I just want to make sure that is one of the point of it's an important issue here with a lot of the residents within this city, especially over in Ward 5. So if that could be a focus point, I would appreciate it. I think I had. Oh, Mark, you sent the board a update project chart, and I had a question about some of the language on that chart. You know which one I'm referring to? The upcoming project report, the STIP funding. report?
Oh,
you sent
you're
to-
talking about the DOT?
Mhm.
Yes, the DOT step, yes.
Okay.
I don't have it in front of me, but I'll try to answer whatever questions you have.
I'm quite sure you will be able to. I just want to ask you one question, because I couldn't understand. With the upcoming projects, it said the RW acquire begins. Is that the beginning date that the project is going to start?
No, that's the right-of-way acquisition. So
Okay.
anytime you have a project that is a construction-related project for transportation, oftentimes is required of them to obtain right-of-way. So, for instance, if this is the 43 connector extension,
Yes.
they would need to acquire right-of-way through the properties in which they have the alignment designed.
Okay. So there's no date there, so that has not been discussed yet with DOT?
My understanding is they are trying to fast-track that property as quickly as possible, and I'm almost certain that they're probably already in negotiation or discussions with property owners. I don't know, Alderman Odom, if you know it or not, but
The schedule will be completed by 2020.
Okay, all right, thank you. I think that was all I had. That was enough, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alderman Odom.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the segue from my neighbor to my right. As far as the road projects go, Alderman Astor, I was going to mention it when we were having the discussion about the rezoning, but the MPO is now working on taking recommendations for future projects. So if you have any state DOT-owned roads in your ward that need some attention for whatever reason, like you mentioned the one earlier, if you would get me that information, we will then compile that, submit that to staff. They'll put that together, and it will go through the scoring process, because that's how all funding for DOT now works with project improvements. So if any of you have any of those, if you want to send those to me, that'd be great. I know that there's always a lot of questions about Craven 30 or West New Bern as it's known today. I will let you know that the Highway Patrol Station project has moved forward, and that will be probably the first structure that you'll see. So you'll start to see some earth turning out there. I know everybody's anxiously awaiting something to happen, so that will be taking place, probably break ground in January based off of what I was told. I don't know if this is an attorney or police question, but campaign signs, now that the campaigns are over, are they considered litter? We've got some folks that want to do some cleaning up of our roadways, and they've asked if they pick those campaign signs up now, would they be in violation? I think our ordinance says it's supposed to be removed within 3 days of the campaign. So would they be okay essentially if they pick those signs up?
Yes, always welcome to pick them up. It's always appreciated to pick up your own signs, debris, whatever.
Okay. So if you're a candidate, whether you won or lost, please make sure you pick up your sign, because there's still quite a few that's out there.
That'd be great.
Retreat date. I think at our last meeting, we were asked to get some thoughts together on retreat dates. How do we want to handle that from a staff perspective? Do you want to send us some recommended dates and we give you some options back, or how?
I like to look at the end of January rather than wait, because I think the sooner we can talk to the staff and give them ideas, the more engaged we can get in this process rather than wait until it's too late.
Okay, so.
January 26th, Saturday?
We meet on the weekend? Okay, sure.
Yeah, we usually I don't know.
One day?
Yeah.
Right, one day, yes, one day. I make a motion for January 26th, one day.
Well, why don't you incorporate the location? There's been some discussion about Kell Road Electric Department having it there, or do you want to go back to First Street?
I don't like development services. I'm fine with development services.
Comfortable.
Yes.
Second?
Yeah.
Date, time, place.
8 a.m.?
8 a.m.?
Okay.
Well, the sooner you get in, the sooner you get out.
So is this 8 to 5? Okay, yeah, 8 o'clock, second.
Is this setting a special meeting?
So
This is a motion to set a special meeting for your annual retreat, January 26th.
I'd like to make a motion to set a special meeting for our annual retreat on Saturday, January 26th at 8 o'clock at the Development Services Building located on First Street.
First Street.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say.
Last thing, Mayor, if I could put Mr. Hughes on the, well, let me clarify, Mr. Hughes from the Parks and Recreation Department. If he could give us an update, because there's a funny structure down here at the corner of City Hall that I'm sure everybody's going to start getting questions about. How's our New Year's Eve project progressing?
Well, we're ready to go. We've got a lot of exciting things coming up on New Year's Eve. The event, the New Year's Eve block party, is going to start at 5:30 p.m. It'll go to about 12:30 a.m. We have 2 bands. The first one will be Adam Pitts, and he is a one-man band. He's very good. He's from Raleigh, so he'll play from 6 to about 9 p.m. Then we also have Love Tribe, and they're a party band, and they're from Raleigh as well, so they're going to start playing a little after 9 o'clock, and they'll go to about 12:30, so it should be a lot of fun. We've got a kids' fun zone where we'll have inflatables, we'll have arts and crafts, and a bunch of activities. We'll have magic shows and balloon artists and things like that. We've got plenty of food trucks that'll be out on Craven and Pollock Street, so it should be a lot of fun. And of course, the big thing at the end of the evening at midnight, stroke of midnight, where you see that structure out there, that's where we're going to drop the lighted bear from the top of City Hall, and it will rest on top of that structure. So we're really excited about it and hope everyone comes out for that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. That's all.
Okay. Any other new business before we go on? At this time, do we need a closed session tonight? Any other business before the Newbern Board of Aldermen tonight?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed the same. Meeting is adjourned.